Hey, it's Arrow inside the rbeats.com studio. First, the trailer to the animated motion picture, Ozzy. And then when we come back, we'll be unplugged and totally uncut with Jeff Foxworthy.
Are you ready, Ozzy?
I'm getting the mail. No way!
We're going to Japan!
Ozzy, we're going to Japan!
Ozzy can't come to Japan.
What? We could leave him here with someone.
Who? Got a business trip coming up? Have a dog and don't know where to leave him?
Wait, turn that up. I said turn it up, not off, Ozzy.
Come and visit Blue Creek.
We offer Shih-Tzu Shiatsu, magical mud baths, a sauna, and, of course, full pedicures. And all of this for dogs? To us, these aren't just dogs. They're our best friends. Where do I sign? Say goodbye to your family. Dominic, get this mutt out of my sight.
Wait a minute. What's going on, guys?
Call everyone. You know the drill.
Everybody out.
What is this?
Welcome to Blue Creek, the real Blue Creek.
I've been brought here by mistake.
From now on, you're number 463.
You're home now, rookie. Get comfortable.
Hey, I'm gonna escape. If you want, you can come too.
Here I am God. I see all, I hear all, I smell all, I know all. Any last bark?
I got your back. Hey, don't worry about that. Hey, I got your back.
Is that Vito?
Don't worry about that. I got your back. Hey, don't worry about that.
I don't know if I can do it.
You
want to run from me? Come on, Tim, go! Doc, he's gone!
Good morning, Jeff. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Eric. How are you?
Doing very well. I love this motion picture. The whole idea, because I'm such a dog fanatic. In fact, my dog is sitting in my studio right now, and you just have embraced something here that is so relatable.
My dog is sitting in my lap right now, Eric.
What is it about dogs? I mean, they're like our little children.
They are, and my wife is out of town, and I don't feel like I'm by myself. And I actually have conversations with the dog. You know, somebody would take me away and put me in a van, but yeah, I don't ever feel alone if I have my dogs here.
That is so true. And Sophia will sit here with me, and she'll snore in interviews, and I look at her going, "Really? This is a good interview. Don't be grading what's going on." For you,
my dog, my smallest dog, snores like crazy, and my wife a couple of years ago made me get a CPAP machine because she was blaming it on me. And then I'm like, it's not even me, it's the dog.
Yeah.
With a mask on, and it's the dog that's keeping me away.
And I've often wondered if that's the reason why dogs are so unconditionally forgiving, because then it teaches us that, you know, they'll snore, they'll do whatever, and we forgive them so easily.
We forgive them much easier than we forgive humans.
To be a part of Ozzy, this had to have been a fun project because it's a subject that you can truly relate with.
It is. And I love, you know, once I did Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, it was like finding a new audience in kids. Because really, kids don't know stand-up comedians. Right. And so, you know, it was after that I did my first couple of kids' books, and then touring with Larry the Cable Guy, and he was telling me just how much fun he had doing Mater, you know, in cars. And so I'm like, all right, I want to do that. And so I had never really pursued it. And so this is fun. It's the story of a family that's going on vacation to Japan, and they're going to take their dog Ozzy with them, and then they find out they're not allowed to bring the dog, and so they see an ad for a dog spa. So they're going to send Ozzy to a spa, and it ends up being a prison.
Oh no!
And so as I was reading the script, there was Warden Grunt, which I just love the name, Warden Grunt, who's a big St. Bernard that slobbers all the time, and I'm like, that's who I want to be. I want to be the warden. And it was fun because as I watched the animation of him, I just immediately became Warden Grunt. Your name is no longer Ozzy. You number 863 to me.
When you pull off a role like this, and really you can't see the movie until after you've dropped your vocals, that's total theater of the mind. Where does that come from in you? Because you're that guy that's usually in front of people. This time around, you were just in front of a mic.
Yeah, which is, because in stand-up you can, lift an eyebrow or do a weird face or act it out, and with this, you're dependent solely on your voice. But there's something. I'm sure actors do the same thing, but within comedians, you actually kind of become that character while you're in there. You just become him. You're thinking like him, and if anybody filmed me, I'd be in a loony bin because I act all this stuff out. I mean, my arms are swinging and I'm going crazy. But you just kind of get lost in it, and it's fun. And so the fun thing for me, because now this thing is out on DirecTV, is I get to see the whole thing. I haven't seen the whole thing to this point.
It's almost I worked with Pam Stone. We did a radio show together, and to watch her grow from a comedian into a radio show, you got to put those hands under control, too, because listeners can't see it.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is, I think I've always enjoyed doing radio, and I love Pam. Pam's another Atlanta girl.
Yeah.
I'm from Atlanta, but you're right. Is in stand up you can act things out, and then when you get in radio, there's a huge learning curve to go. Okay, I don't have that, and I don't have the luxury of the long pauses. That you can have in stand up.
That's so true. So then, did you have when you went into that studio to become the Saint Bernard? Did you have to really protect your vocal cords, because sometimes you overact and stuff, and you can get vocal burn from it?
You can a little bit, which is you don't think about that when you start to do the character. But I was going through a lot of water doing Ward Crumb. It's probably why he slobbered all the time. But as you do that, it just puts a strain on your voice the longer you do it. And I'm like, whoa, but I'm already committed. I got to stay with it. So
that's interesting that you bring up water, because
in cars it's so easy because it's just him talking. I mean, it's just his voice.
Hey, speaking of him, aren't you on tour with him right now?
I am. We're doing a tour called We've Been Thinking Tour right now.
And is that going to be the same tour that's going to bring you guys through Charlotte this September?
Yes. Well, we're doing a thing called Backyard Barbecues where we're combining comedy and music. Because we were sitting around one night, and he said, what is it we haven't done that you want to do? And I said, well, comedy and music are the two things that keep everybody from going crazy. What if we combine those and had just great food for the night and a couple of bands? And so we're doing it with the Marshall Tucker Band and Foghat and Larry and I doing stand-up. So just having fun nights like that.
Oh, my God. I have been with both of those bands, and they totally get it. They really do.
Yeah, it's just, about people being entertained and escaping for a little bit. Larry's hoping we get to go out on stage and sing Can't You See? And I'm like, I said, they probably need to hide our vocals a little more, like in a Foghat Fool for the City song or something,
With everything that you do and being from Atlanta, do you ever sit there and think, wow, I'm working just as hard as James Brown?
You know what? I work like crazy. When I started out, I had 8 years in a row. I did over 500 shows a year. But I've been doing this now 33 years, and I still love it. And how many people can say that about what they do? And I never get bored. I mean, I've had the luxury of doing a lot of different things. I've done a sitcom. I've done a couple of sketch shows. I've done game shows. I draw. I do kids' books. I write books. But if you ever held a gun to my head and said, you can't do but one thing, it would always be stand-up. And most people get into stand-up to get into TV and movies, and then they don't do stand-up anymore. And to me, that's, at the essence, that's who I am. I'm a comedian, so I still love doing that.
That's kind of like that documentary that came out, Dying Laughing, because it really kind of goes into the head and heart of the comedian about the passion that you guys really put into every performance. It's not a gig to you guys, it's a performance.
Yeah, and there's so much work that goes into it that people never see. I mean, I remember when I started, Leno said, your goal should be to write 45 new minutes a year. And I was thinking, I can write 30 minutes a week. I mean, that was a young kid. But he was right to say something that everybody's going to laugh at every time. I mean, even on those years where I was on stage every night, in a great year, I'd write maybe, 45 or 50 minutes of new stand-up. And so every time you did an album or every time you did a special, that was a year's worth of hard work gone. And, comedy's different than music. I tell my musician friends, if you write 4 hits, you play till you're 90 because people will come to hear those 4 songs. With comedy, once you do an album or a special, people are like, that was funny. What have you got that's new? And so you're always having to, regenerate new stuff. And so that's the challenge of it. But I just kind of always trusted, hey, if I think something or my wife says it or my family does it, surely other people are doing the same thing. So if you ever go listen to an album or watch a special, it's kind of a snapshot of whatever was going on in my life that year.
Well, I've always thought of you as being that preacher guy that happened to become a comedian.
Okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
Because you're so relatable and you know how to get beyond our troubles and make us feel great, and then when it's all over with, we're still feeling incredible.
Well, I mean, it's so very kind, and it's basically, I think most people have the thoughts that comics have. They just don't learn to grab them. And so when you grab it and say, hey, this morning my wife said this, or here's what men do that drives women crazy. And the biggest compliment I can get is when somebody comes back at the end of the night and they go, oh, my God, you've been in my house. You've been in my house. Because you're kind of making them laugh at themselves.
That's what I love about standing so close to the green room at the Comedy Zone here in Charlotte when they shake hands and thank the guests for coming by. I love listening to the stories and watching how the comedians actually take in that moment.
Oh, my gosh, there's something about being a comedian. People will tell you things they should not tell their therapist. I mean, people will come up to me in the grocery store and say, hey, Jeff, let me tell you what my brother did. And I've got note cards in my back pocket and go, hold on just a minute. And yeah, but, I think that's the connection that we all have is no matter what part of the country you live in, no matter what the accents are like, really at the root of it, we're all the same. We all want the same things and all go through the same things. And so I feel like that's my job is to find out, hey, not what makes us different, but what is it that we all have in common?
Do you think you'll ever write that one joke or come up with that one joke that'll straighten out the roads that created Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta?
No, that's not possible. Nor in Charlotte will I ever find the one that will. I have been lost so many times in Charlotte because you'll be going down Queens, and then all of a sudden it's not Queens anymore, and you're like, how did this happen? I never turned. And I'm not on the same road.
It's so true. So in Ozzy, you get to work with Rob Schneider. This guy has been in my studio twice, and he is a health food fanatic.
Yeah. Well, Rob's been through a lot of different phases in his life. I've known Rob since, golly, the middle 80s, back when none of us really had any success. And so, he's had such a fun career and gotten to do so many different things. And, he's kind of a natural at this stuff. But, boy, which is kind of the fun thing for me is having done this long, to look back at people like Rob and David Spade and Adam Sandler and Chris Rock and, all of us before anything had happened. Like you're talking about hanging out there in Charlotte at the Green Room. That's what we were doing 30 years ago.
But that's part of the journey, the fun of it. And don't you still pull from that raw energy when you were going out there and just testing it out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of my favorite nights ever were just hanging around with talking about jokes, sitting there with Seinfeld and Leno in the Comedy Magic Club in L.A. in the back room, and to hear Jay and Jerry debate. Now, blue is a funnier word. No, Jay, green is funnier. Yeah. And I'm like, if people could see this, they just die laughing.
What about that moment right before you're announced to go out on stage? I love looking at the comedian right behind the curtain, and because do you transform still and become him, or are you always him?
You know, it's funny. People will ask my wife, "Is he always funny?" And she will say, "Well, he's funny, but he's everything. You know, there's sometimes he's serious, there's sometimes he's sad, there's sometimes he's contemplative. I mean, really, my goal was to have a normal life, which is why I don't live in New York or L.A. I live in Georgia. I wanted to take my kids to school every day, and so I think I'm lucky in that the guy you see on stage is really me. I don't have to get into a character. So I will say, and I was thinking about this the other night, when the lights go down in the theater and people start clapping and somebody shines that little flashlight on the floor, I still get excited.
Nice.
Every night. I'm like, and somebody said, well, what are you thinking when you walk out there? And I said, honestly, I'm thinking I'm going out to talk to my friends. That's what I think. And so, you know, how cool that after all this time you still feel that way about your job. You still get excited about it.
Did you ever feel that way at IBM, or were
No,
you?
I did not. No, I carried a tool bag and fixed machines. I never woke up going, yes, today. No, I do not.
But, you know, like they always say that life goes in circles. Would you ever go back to a position like that just to kind of take a break from all the lights and the cameras and everything? Because sometimes I just want to be a regular guy.
Well, I have that in my life. Like, I have a farm.
Nice.
And if I'm not working, I mean, people would like, I'm on a tractor or a bulldozer. I mean, I'm out there outside working every day. And that's kind of like the thing that recharges my battery. But like when I was at IBM, I did that because a friend of my dad's felt bad for me. I was working in a grocery store, and he found me a job, but it wasn't the right job for me. I didn't know you could be a comedian. And I had made people laugh since I was a little kid. But in my wife, who I met the first night I ever did comedy, met my wife in my career the same night, she was the only person that was going, you can do this. You have all this creative stuff inside of you. You need to get this out. And so I think once I experienced a job that allowed me to be creative, and I mean, every day I'm doing something, whether it's drawing or writing or painting, whatever. That's who I am. You know, I mean, in a goofy way, that's my gift is to be creative. So I think if I ever had to go back to a job where I couldn't be, now that I know what that feels like, I'd be pinging off the walls.
So when are you going to put that imagination to work and start doing the animation for the next animated film that you're going to be doing?
I haven't thought about that yet. You know, that's one thing people don't know. I've drawn my whole life. And so, and obviously when you're a comedian, you're in a different city every night. So, but I take like sketch pads and I'll sit there in the airport as I'm waiting and kind of, I see somebody with an interesting face and I'll kind of sketch them out and then I'll finish it on the plane and I put captions on them. And I have thousands of these. I mean, and I have friends that when they come over, their first thing is, go get your books, go get your sketchbooks. I want to look at your books. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, so I've always, but no, like animation, that's a skill set I don't have.
Did you ever get to meet Louis Grizzard?
I did get to meet Louis.
Oh, you were a lucky man.
Great Southern humor.
Oh, yeah. That man has inspired so many people. Did he inspire you as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because he talked about what he knew about, which kind of taught me that same lesson. You know, because early on in my comedy, probably like everybody starting out, I would sit around and go, what's funny, what's funny, what's funny? And I just kind of got to the point that I trusted. Hey, if I think it, or my wife says it, or my family does it, I'm going to trust that other people are thinking and saying and doing the same thing. And that's what Louis talked about, was the small town he grew up in and the characters that he knew there. And I think I read everything he ever wrote.
Well, how's that make you feel that you too are that writer? Because, I mean, you're writing things that people are picking up, and it's not like just going to a Comedy Zone to watch you. We get to sit there and study your paragraphs.
Yeah, it's weird. You know, when people will come up to me, like young comedians, and they're like, you're the reason that I do this. I listen, you know, I can remember being a kid and listening to cassette tapes of you riding to Florida. And, you know, and you never think about what you're doing affects somebody like that. I'm like, really? Really? You know, oh yeah, I've got every album you ever did. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about being an influence on somebody. Though at this point in my life, I love, like, you know, mentoring young comics. And it's just like telling them what you know and what you learn the hard way.
It's almost like you've been given the reins to help people create tomorrow, which is a pretty powerful weapon.
Well, it is. You know, and there were people that did that for me. I mean, you know, to be on Johnny Carson was life-changing for me. Rodney Dangerfield saw me, you know, and followed me out into the lobby and said, I want to put you on a young comedian special. You know, Bob Hope put me on a thing. And so Buddy Hackett helped me. And so, you know, to me, it's kind of like just passing the baton down the line.
Are you going to be okay when they start doing big specials like they've done for Bob Hope and all these guys? I mean, because you know that day is coming where the focus is going to be on your legacy and career.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet. You know, my biggest fear has always been I don't want to be the comic that stays at the dance too long.
Yep.
You know, to be doing it when you're not funny anymore. And so I really work at it. I mean, I still go back to the little clubs with note cards, you know, with 30 people in the audience going, hey, is this funny? Is this funny? Is this funny? and, you know, I'm like, I don't want to stay too long. And my wife's like, you'll know when it's too long. You just keep working at it.
I've had that same exact conversation with Killer Bees. The two of you, man.
I've known Bees since 1985, I think.
Oh, my God. Oh,
yeah.
Don't you love that community of comedians? Because you're just incredible conversationalists.
You know what? You know, I think probably a misconception about comedians is that people think you're just a buffoon. But I love hanging out with comics because they're, I mean, you know, we're kind of, we observe everything. And so most comedians can talk about a lot of different things, you know, because I mean, like, I'm a voracious reader, and I don't care what it is. I'll go into Barnes & Noble and go to the counter and go, what's the book everybody's talking about this week? I don't care what it is. I just want to read something good. And, you know, it could be a biography, or it could be a novel, or whatever, a history book. And so, you know, most comedians have a pretty broad knowledge of a lot of subjects. And so they are fun to sit around and talk to.
And that's what makes you so real to us. Congratulations on this brand new movie called Ozzy. And I really do hope to get to hear your voice in the future in many more of these, because you really bring it out.
Well, that's so kind of you, Arrow. And it's such a fun project, and the family will love it. It's on DirecTV. You know, in fact, my girls who are now grown are coming over, and we're all going to watch it together because I haven't seen the whole thing, so I'm excited about it.
When the storm is coming and you need some cover, when the trouble's rising, pulling you under, when the sun's on fire and you need some shade, when your feet are moving but you're going no place, I got your back. Hey, don't worry about that. Hey, I got your back. Hey, don't worry about that. I got your back. Hey, don't worry about that. Hey, I got your back. Hey, I got your back, back, back. When your head is swimming, I'll be your air. When you run in circles, I'll be your square. When you stumble, take a little tumble, and you need a hand. You don't need to ask, yeah, 'cause I'm all over that.